we built in an automatic response to that problem. That's one way we help. We then say, well, okay, but what if somebody's disabled and needs support? Well, you can have special programs for disabilities. And indeed, there's no doubt that after the Depression, we said, okay, what we'll do is, if you are elderly, you will have some type of guaranteed retirement package. And again, that was a response to a breakdown because of the Great Depression. The most vulnerable people were people who could not get back up and remake their fortune. If you were 75 years old, you aren't going to recreate your wealth. Impossible. If you're 35, 45, you could do that probably. But not if you're 75. So we said, okay, we'll build in an automatic system, Social Security. Now, we built it in such a way that at the beginning it was an easy program. Now it's becoming a difficult program because you're having the age distribution is going the other way, and there'll be a lot more people who are in their retirement ages than in the working ages. And that will happen. People ask, well, how do you solve that problem? I tell you, what you need to do is make sure your kids are highly productive. They need to produce a lot because they're going to be feeding a lot of people. That's all you have to do. Or have more kids. As the other solution. But if you, so we created a program for that. In 1965, we created Medicare. Again, we said a person after 65, they will not be denied health care. Now, so they have Medicare. 2003, we added prescription drugs to that. So we've classified certain groups of people, saying, okay, these people are potentially in need. Now the problem is everybody over 65 is not in need. But yet we say, that's our definition. Over 65, you will get it. No ifs, ands, or buts. So from our side, we have kind of, the economic side, we've essentially added what you might call social values to the system. We've set up systems that hopefully will work, and they allow us to meet what we consider to be our social obligations. And it's one of the elements. Do economists do that naturally? I don't know. They do it because they know that people are interested in it. Harvey Rosen, the professor of public finance at Princeton University, writes in his book, he said the idea of distribution of income, it is not an issue that automatically falls out as economists like to talk about. They think the system automatically distributes income. But if it's too maldistribution that we're talking about, citizens do not find it irritating or unacceptable. So we have to figure out how can we adjust that distribution of income a little bit. Provide a little bit more at the lower income level, perhaps a little bit less at the top, or someplace in between. So we end up there with the idea of the charity. And charity is a tough one. Because the other side of the coin, you always want to encourage people to be productive. You don't want to make the system so easy that you don't need to be productive. We need people to work. We need people to produce. And there's that trade-off always. You have to somehow find that point at which you are able to provide, live up to your social values, at the same time also encourage the production you need for all of us to have. So it's an interesting process that we're going through. So the charity, that's the one where we have, the economists have to work with the okay, what do we really mean by charity? Who really should get it? We cannot say. We're not trained to say, well, that person should get it, but that person shouldn't. Somebody has to make the rules for us, and then we have to set the system. And then finally, that brings us to the last point. How do you pay for all of this? At the government side or the church side? Now, I don't know what the Presbyterians teach about tithing. I know when I was growing up, I always thought 10% was the rule. Don't ever do less than 10%, otherwise God knows what would happen to you. You're on the wrong side. It was very good. I think in the Methodist Church, they always use the word tithe. They want you to tithe, but they never put down that 10% rule. Okay. And but they send out notices at tithing time that suggest certain numbers. Okay, you could do this or do that. They suggest certain numbers. And I guess every church does the same thing. But interesting, if I, as I think about it, if the tithing of 10% of your income, does that mean the Bible is a flat tax document? Steve Forbes, here we come. But then I read some other stuff, and again, telling you I'm not a biblical expert at all. I read people had, obviously, and they started going through all these ideas about all the different ways, what it really means. Looks to me like a discussion of the tax code. How on our side, on the idea of paying for government, how do we decide who gets to pay? Well, we've set up, a long time ago, we set up the income tax system. We said it was going to be a progressive income tax system. That the people at the bottom would pay a lot less for public services, the people at the top would pay more. And we've lived by that. And that's been true from when the tax really was implemented back in World War II to today. Variations, changes in the details, but still a progressive tax system. Today, the top half of the taxpayers will pick up 97, 98% of the whole tab. So that means the bottom half will pay about 2%. If you look at the top 20%, they pick up over 35 to 40% of the tab. So the system is progressive in that sense. Now that's not counting the payroll tax, which is a Social Security tax, which is a different tax, not counting the payroll tax. So in our literature, and we talk about taxes, we see them as the economic system, the economists have talked about them, and they have said, okay, if you want a progressive tax system, if you believe, and we believe that it is certainly legitimate, that okay, we can tax people at different rates at the margin. And we do that. Now, some people may argue that we can only go so far. At what point do you discourage people from working, investing, risk-taking? At what point do you say, wait a minute, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take the chance anymore. And we lose something. We lose some of their productivity. So you have, again, it's a trade-off, a very cautious trade-off over there. If you were to go up to the top rate, 98%, what would you do? The perfect example is Sweden. Where do all the rich people in Sweden live? Not in Sweden. I mean the rock stars, the tennis heroes. They don't need to be there. They can live. Somehow the Caribbean Islands seem to be a great choice for them. So, I mean, you have to be careful there about that. There's going to be differences of opinion. Now, on the church side, they have the other issue is the government will say, you will pay. The church is going to say, would you please pay? And then suggest some numbers you might have. So they have the other problem of not being maybe it's a voluntary contribution, but then they have to say, okay, how do we decide on that? And then essentially what they've done is they obviously each person has to decide on his own what he or she can afford and what's built within their budget, and then, of course, for them, what the value of that church is to them as well. So they have to deal with all of that. So you got the different ways of paying. But what you find